Welcome to Fix and Fly, the business podcast, which identifies common business issues for you to watch out for in your day-to-day business life. So tune in every fortnight where we speak to leaders of corporates to SMEs where you can implement their strategies into your business. I'm your host, Larissa Logan from Fixity, where we help turn businesses around. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us on the Fix and Fly podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Do you mind telling our audience a little bit about your journey to becoming the CEO of Scentian Bio?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I have always loved science, but then have had predominantly a journey in business. I started a company called 1000 Memories when I was living in the US and built that. We did our Series A round with Greylock and exited to Ancestry.com. Wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Came back to New Zealand and sort of unlocked my passion in the food industry, working for Fonterra and TNG Global in sort of business leadership roles. But I've never been quite able to give up the entrepreneurial itch. And so I was mentoring startups here in New Zealand and met Andrew Kralichek, our CTO and founder, who'd been working on this incredible technology around how insects smell. And I just got drawn further and further into the vortex and helped with the spin out of the company. And here I am today as the CEO, helping build something brand new and hopefully really interesting.
So can you tell our audience just a little bit about what actually you do? Like, what is this new technology, this innovative technology that we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, so we're inspired by nature and insects' incredible sense of smell to create a new class of sensors that are like an insect nose on a chip. So they're capturing chemical information in real time to enable businesses and people to make different decisions.
And what sort of industries do you serve?
Yes, our first focus is in food. That's where we're working predominantly at the moment. Food's all about what's in it. People, are demanding higher and higher expectations of what we're eating. And so the food industry is desperately trying to measure that, especially as people want more natural ingredients. And so we are working with food companies on spotting taints, contaminants, measuring key ingredients and bioactives.
Oh, that's amazing. And so how does that actually work in practice?
Yeah, so it's a combination of synthetic biology and AI. So we are using the latest synthetic biology approaches to produce these receptors that insects use to smell. So we're not using any actual insects. We're producing these in a lab, and then we're inserting them into a small chip that generates electrical signals, and we're using AI to process that information. It's the same information that would be going to the neurons in a insect's brain, and we're using AI to mimic that processing and generate a really simple answer for a user. Right, this is something that's turning up in operations and in food, anywhere out in the world, and they want to know, is this sample good? What level of the key compound that I'm interested in is here? And that's what we're processing and generating as a software answer.
That's just mind-blowing that you've been able to take these receptors from an insect and put it into a chip and effectively, let me know if I stuff this up, but effectively you're trying to reduce the amount of wastage in the food chain and the supply chain. Is that kind of the goal of this?
Yeah, I think it's a huge outcome of what we're doing. So we're helping I guess when we help a big food company look at what's coming through, ultimately that leads to way less waste because they can put every truckload of grain that's coming in to its best possible use.
Being an accountant and a turnaround specialist, I love efficiencies. Like, I love the numbers, I love data, I love improving how a business runs. And so understanding how you can reduce wastage in that supply chain, I think is so important for so many businesses. Do you want to talk to us around your pilots that you're running around the world and kind of steps that you've taken to get to this point?
Yeah, so we've got pilots with 5 global food companies. They're on sort of different foods that they're working on, but for each of them we're looking at a key compound that is a signature of its quality or a signature of the key problem that customer experiences. And so we're measuring that to enable them to spot the problems early. And so rather than taking in a truckload of grain and processing that and then ending up with a product that doesn't meet customer specs or is subject to disputes or recalls, we can make sure that you're making the best possible product for your customers. And we're doing this both, I guess, in the growing space and in sort of agri and horticulture, and we're doing this in manufacturing.
And so how challenging is it to have an idea like this, which is obviously innovative, and then taking it to market? Like, how challenging has it been to go through funding rounds to get the funding to get to this point where you're actually running pilots on a global stage at scale?
It's pretty challenging and daunting. I guess at its core, when I think like what is an entrepreneur, it's someone who maybe irrationally believes they can make something out of nothing. For us, we're trying to create a whole new category. And so helping people see what's possible and then back that, it has a lot of challenge. I think if you looked at that rationally, you'd say, oh my gosh, there's all these hard bits. But the nice part is we're really meeting an unmet customer need. And so the customer engagement and traction we've had has been fantastic. I guess, from my own experience in the food sector, I know how these challenges feel. And so that means, customers are willing to engage early and help collaborate to deliver something that's going to make their life better and turn their waste into value. So that really helps. And then that helps in its sort of reflection with investment to be able to say, hey, we've got this really cool technology, which I think, does appeal to people, but also, hey, look at this market that we're working on and the opportunity here.
And so it sounds like you really need to refine who your customer is, what the problem is, what the solution is. And I guess when you're going to market, trying to get funding for these innovative projects, you've got to provide a lot of confidence to the funders. The founders do, right? That they have the passion, the capacity to drive this project forward. And so the founder does he have over 20 years of developing this technology?
So Andrew's been working on this since he came back from his postdoc in the early 2000s. And so, we're working in bio, so it takes a long time, and it's, what we're doing now has only recently really become possible.
Why is that?
We're literally using, I guess, the sort of the latest thinking in AI and in synthetic biology, and those, there's been tons and tons of growth and learning over the course of the last 20 years that sort of lays the foundation to be able to deliver something that when it turns up looks so simple to a customer.
And AI is changing the landscape of so many different sectors. You're obviously carving out a new space for yourself. How important is it to get the right people who understand how to navigate the science with technology and join those two together to go to market to have a commercially viable product?
Yeah, I think, that's mission critical. I think, there is so much that's possible in science that isn't yet translated into, backed startups or products because it hasn't been joined up with any, customer discovery and understanding and then productization. And that's, that's what's lured me in here. That's why, I really love being part of Scentian Bio, to take the sort of raw potential of the science and then the technology, but to connect that to customer problems and build products that, ultimately help change the world.
Well, you need super smart people to do that. Do we have these super smart people in New Zealand?
We sure do.
Yeah.
And I think, it's been great as we've been growing the team. We're a team of 10 now, and continuing to grow. And we've been able to find the best talent right here in New Zealand, and that's both on the science and tech side, but also I think in terms of the New Zealand system's actually been building great businesses, and so there are people who've seen other startups and been part of building businesses here that can bring those experiences and help contribute. But I think as something that I guess I've learned in my career to date is to over-index on hiring amazing people. And, that's about both unreasonably believing that you can convince people to work for you and, chasing down and securing the best possible people, and then creating an environment where they can flourish.
So what type of expertise do you have in-house?
Yeah, we're sort of a combination of synthetic biology, like structural biology, and AI. And then we are, I guess at the moment, building out our product capability as well.
And then when you're looking to these offshore markets, where you're running these pilots, you're not looking at these small businesses, right? You're running pilots on a large scale. Yep. Do you want to give our audience a little taste of the sizes of these businesses that you're currently running pilots in?
Yeah, I mean, they're all multi-billion-dollar organizations. So yeah, they are delivering vast quantities of food or food ingredients every day, and so that's why they're great collaborators in our first products. Like, they are buying at scale, and they really, really care. And then from there, we can obviously expand and deliver our product much more broadly across the food system. But I guess we're working on pilots where people are, buying, thousands or tens of thousands of tests per month. And so that quickly becomes, really material revenue for us, which helps with our growth story and our scaling of our team.
So there must be a huge amount of pressure to A, deliver what the product says it's going to do, and then B, deliver in the level of growth. How are you managing that kind of manufacturing side of things? And, from the components, do you want to talk us through where you get the components from and where they're manufactured?
Yeah, I guess we are really conscious of building in a scalable way. And so, not doing stuff that's works in the lab but doesn't translate into, the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of units that we're planning to run at. And so we're producing these insect receptors right here in Auckland. We've got, absolutely awesome expertise, great setup, all the right equipment, and we can do that at a scale to deliver that. And then we are sourcing the physical shell of the flow cell that we're working with from Europe, from our partners at Oxford Nanopore, and and then we're putting those together with our AI and software, which we're building here in Auckland as well.
And how do you see technology, I mean, the speed of which AI is moving at the moment, how do you see the speed of technology changing the landscape over the next few years for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty hard crystal ball question. I mean, I confess I'm blown away by the progress in AI this year. I think, we're both an AI company delivering AI, but also, I mean, in and of ourselves, we use AI every day. And I think just the month-on-month progress on the sort of big AI models is really changing the way we're working. And so in terms of what's becoming possible, I mean, we sort of, we make sure we spend a little bit of time each quarter just challenging ourselves on what we could be doing. Because I think, what we could be doing next year or in 2 years' time is a sort of exploding space of opportunities.
Absolutely, and I think having, do you call them a computer scientist? Having a computer scientist in-house to be able to tap into that expertise is obviously fundamental for your business.
Yeah, we have data scientist, ML engineer, like we've got fantastic folks who are at the sort of front end of using this. And yeah, I mean, the way that they're changing their work is pretty cool. And then the flow through, you know, I mean, it really feels like with the new deep research tools, you've got sort of all human knowledge at your fingertips. And so, for anyone on the team to ask a hardcore, science, technical, manufacturing, market question and get an answer in a matter of minutes back is sort of insane. And so that should enable us to make better decisions, to more quickly, focus on the right things to deliver the sort of product market fit that we're after.
And you've told me a really cool story, how you've had people approach you from overseas saying that they want to work for Scentian Bio because they love what you're doing. So that must be a really great feeling that you've got a kind of a log of people wanting to come in.
Yeah, I mean it's very special and very humbling, I guess, to sort of see the caliber of folks who want to be part of our journey. We've got some awesome advisors from around the world, and we get emails in every month from people who want to come and work here, from US, India, Europe, who are motivated and inspired by what we're doing and want to be a part of it.
So what's the biggest challenge for you to be able to take on this talent? What's the biggest challenge for you at the moment?
I guess a core challenge in building something that can be as big as what we're doing is to sort of balance between the focus that's required to deliver and execute and maintaining the sort of broader opportunities to then sort of grow in our strategy. And that's a little bit the balance that comes through in our hiring as well. I mean, I'm just conscious of making sure we're retaining our focus and our culture and, building in a really steady way, that we're not getting ahead of ourselves and adding, too many different pieces that, become unwieldy. We've really got a core first mission to deliver in the food industry, and that's what sort of unlocks the broader impact and business opportunity that we're after.
So how big is this opportunity globally? You've modeled this out. What's the value?
Yeah, I mean, the food quality control market that we're working in is about an $8 billion global market.
Worth playing in.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's not necessarily the sexiest sounding market, but it's at the core of the food system. It's at the core of how we can have an impact on food producers, on reducing food waste, on climate impact. So those are all really exciting reasons to be involved. And as a team, we also love food generally. But yeah, I think beyond that, we are involved in some work in pest control. I mean, that's a $24 billion market. And then we have a Gates Foundation grant where we're working on a TB diagnostic prototype, but the sort of broader health diagnostics market is tens or hundreds of billions of dollars.
So talk to us about that. So TB, tuberculosis. Do you want to just give us a bit more info around what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I mean, TB is such a scourge. It's the leading infectious disease killer around the world today. Over 1 million people will die this year from TB, and it's it's really hamstrung by not having good diagnostics that work in the field. And so the Gates Foundation are funding us to develop a prototype test that would take saliva or urine or sweat and spot the biomarkers from the metabolites and use that to provide a fast diagnostic of tuberculosis. And and I think it might sound surprising to people that smell through those would be a good way to spot disease, but I guess at its core, our bodies are producing all of these metabolites that provide all of this information about our health and wellness. And when you have a disease or an indication, there are signatures that come through from that, and that's why every now and then you see like an article on the news or on YouTube of someone, there's a lady in the Midwest in the US who can smell Parkinson's, and there are dogs who can smell prostate cancer, and so there are these signatures. It's just as humans we're not really able to perceive and definitively measure them, and that's where through a digital standardized replicated device we can do that.
So these are really great initiatives. What's the biggest challenge for you to bring that one to life so it's available around the globe?
The health part is obviously on a longer timeline. I mean, the challenges there are, the regulatory work that needs to be done to sort of follow that through. I mean, we're doing something very new and different from how normal diagnostics work, and you need to understand the signatures in order to be able to show in the regulatory pathway that we can deliver those. But we've already demonstrated that we can recognize all of the key biomarkers for tuberculosis and malaria. So we're on the path. But yeah, I think the other challenge, as I mentioned, I guess, is just that balance of focus and not getting distracted from our core mission in food, while also working, in the background on this, big, valuable, meaningful opportunity that we're part of.
And then so around your core mission, what is the first key deliverable that's kind of on your horizon?
Yeah, key next step, I guess, is shifting to open commercial sales. So taking the products that we're working on and making those things that we are, selling widely on a per test basis. And so that's what we're targeting to do early next year.
Amazing. And so with founders starting up new startups who are potentially operating in a new sector area, and there's no kind of plan to follow, what advice would you give to them around, if they've got a good idea, what steps do they need to take to be able to A, get to MVP, and B, go to market?
A couple of pieces of advice. I think, the first one is, get great people around you. And, I guess I've had that both times. My first startup, we were part of Y Combinator. This time we've got fantastic support from our investors. We're part of the Sprout Agritech Accelerator program. And then we've built this sort of network of people that we're asking and getting advice from. And so that's, I think that's really, really important when you're a founder, because you can get lost in your own head, and having the people who are going to help, who are going to care, but who are also going to challenge, I think helps you learn faster and execute. And then secondly, I think it's about, getting out there and talking to customers. And it's always incredibly tempting to procrastinate that and to want to make things better before you show them, before you ship them, before you get them out there. But product market fit comes from working with customers. It comes from taking a bit of a risk, being vulnerable, sharing your work and your results, and iterating to make things that are great. And if you're working on something that matters to customers, that you will be able to find customers that can help you. And that's really how you can deliver great products. And then from there, you can build customer evangelism and scale.
And I think that's the thing, right? When you have that initial idea, people think, oh, I don't want to tell too many people because they might steal my idea, right? But I think no one has the same drive, the passion, the capacity as you to actually drive that through to a final product.
Totally. I think especially in New Zealand, we're always very guarded about thinking other people are going to steal our ideas. I don't quite know why, but it was the first thing that I learned in the Valley, right? Was, people aren't going to steal your ideas. At best they're going to give you some feedback. Most likely they're going to be a little bit disinterested. Like, get out there and talk about it, and that's such a big unlock.
And we have such a cool bunch of Kiwis on the global stage doing so many cool things. Have you kind of tapped in to other Kiwi startups who are operating in and around your kind of space?
Yeah, I mean, we have contacts and connections at a bunch of other Kiwi deep tech startups and from the sort of wider bio community. That's been really cool. I mean, I think it's amazing the sort of quality and caliber of businesses we're building here. And I think also, I mean, from an investment perspective, it's sort of amazing how connected the sort of big global firms are here in New Zealand as well. It's kind of surprising all the folks who, actually turn out to live in New Zealand or spend part of their year here.
So what's the best piece of business advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I think that's a hard question. Probably I would go back to the Y Combinator mantra, make something people want, which sounds so simple and it is so hard. But yeah, I mean, Paul Graham at Y Combinator was just always fixated with making something people want, and do they really want it? How do you make them want it more? And I think it's always tempting to think that people want something, but when you really find that spot where you're delivering something that people really, really care about and want, it's such a great moment. I remember at 1,000 Memories, and we went through a whole journey, but we got to a point where we got flowers and chocolate sent to our house from just a random user, right? And it was like a sign that we were making something that really, really mattered. And I think hitting that moment in customers is the best thing to remember, and it's something that I remind myself of because we're all tempted to get a little distracted from it.
So I think the flowers and chocolates are great, but what level of evidence do you need as a startup founder to be able to give yourself confidence that you've got a service, a product that a customer wants? What level of evidence would you need?
Yeah, I mean, it's about use. I mean, I think that's it's about getting out of your office and going and seeing what people are doing with your product. Nothing beats seeing the real person and how they're actually interacting because, yeah, I mean, paying for your product is not the same as using your product. And if people aren't using it, then they're not gonna stick around, and you're not really adding value. And I think also when you watch people using your product, you really learn about how they truly feel about it. That how do you actually really delight them? I mean, that's what we're fixated with doing, right? We're selling in big food to business leaders, but we're a product that's ultimately used by folks in operations who are there, at the inwards checkpoint checking the trucks, and want that person to love our product just as much as the person in corporate who's sort of got that sort of analytical view on what's occurring. And
looking at the savings and the cost savings and the efficiencies because that food's not having to be transported. Totally. Yeah.
So that's what the corporate leadership see. Yeah. The person who's using it every day, I mean, they care about how fast does the result work and is it right, and is this helping make my life easier?
I can see that the product is going to save cash, right? Improve the bottom line, improve reputational risk. If you are a supplier, you're not now sending on food that will need to be returned or destroyed at some point in time. Totally. Are there any other kind of benefits that you've seen from an operational perspective?
Yeah, I think probably the last category would just be maximizing the value of the ingredients that are coming through. So if, rather than leveling everything down to a sort of minimum spec, how do you get the best out of the food that's coming through the supply chain? If it's got fantastic, core ingredients and bioactives, how do you unlock those for the best possible products?
So you guys have obviously focused on food, and you've got this health gig going on the side, which is amazing. Do you have any plans where this could be used in other sectors?
Yeah, I think there's I have a Miro board of a whole bunch of other interesting ideas that people have suggested or from different companies who've contacted us about, interesting and curious potentials. Ultimately, I guess we think like what we're doing can be a consumer sensor. Like we'd love for ultimately to be part of, a wearable that was augmenting everyone's experience, and that, could be embedded in a smartwatch, tracking your health, wellness, and environment in real time, helping you make the best of every day and understand your context better.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Fix and Fly podcast. It's been really interesting to hear about what you're doing, and I can't wait to see how the business progresses in the coming years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you enjoy the Fix and Fly podcast, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share with anyone you think will find this useful. We look forward to seeing you next time.